Which one is this?
It's the iPhone 8.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That one works well. I bought this one refurbished. So I had that one. Welcome to Rich Conversations. We're in New York, and I'm with Joe Anhalt here. And we were just talking about the iPhone 8.
I love the size of it.
It's nice. I feel like the 8 was the highest quality of what are now considered to be the older iPhones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've been meaning to downsize from my, what do I have? Whatever this is. To
yeah, that's big.
iPhone mini. Yeah. But they don't sell the minis
The
anymore.
minis.
Which is unfortunate. I think you can get them refurbished.
Yeah, you can get them through
eBay or
like
something.
retailers
Yeah.
and third parties. I had someone, I was talking with somebody the other day, and he was like, I think of my phone as a mini TV in my pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
But I was like,
It's
I think of it as a TV remote, and the world and my life is the screen. So I don't need...
yeah, but you can't control the world with your phone.
No, but I can, in my life,
Uh-huh.
I just view this as a tool, and then it's like, oh, I can...
Yeah.
with a TV remote, you're not staring at the TV remote. You're using it to get you to where you want to go on the screen, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of view it like that, where...
It's a tool, yeah.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a camera, I have music, I have a calculator,
Mm-hmm.
like a notepad, and devices that can connect me, and maps, and using it rather as that.
Yeah. Yeah, as a tool chest.
So I am curious if there will be a movement. I see people with everybody's got big phones, and I'm just
yeah.
why?
And iPads too. Well, it makes sense. It's a lot easier to digest the content on the screen, which most content these days are videos and images. And it's the same reason why people like bigger movie screens, right? Or bigger TVs for that matter. Like, it makes sense.
See, I think I'm more about compartmentalizing and having everything be for a specific purpose. Whereas I think most people just use the phone. It's just like an all
Totally. I mean, that's
thing.
the point of it, right? It went from the iPod to, we don't need the iPod anymore because it all fits on the phone. So it's this Swiss Army knife of a tool.
But also the fitting in the pocket and stuff. I feel like it's...
What?
It just gets in the way. Like, I'm not a big person, so me handling like a bigger phone is always obstructing, like getting in the way of everything.
Yeah. I've been wanting to downsize. The primary reason is so it makes me want to use my phone less, because I think the experience will be worse. So that's my inspiration for wanting to downsize. So it makes me not use my phone as much, or my device as much.
Now, we're with Joe Anhalt here, and the reason I wanted to record with you is just kind of like we're doing right now, talking about culture. I love picking Joe's brain about just like
anything
what's going on, and you're a very insightful individual, and you're in the tech scene, and you're always pursuing your curiosity. So kind of what trends you're seeing. We're talking a little bit about iPhones, but I want to touch also on basketball. We're recording this in late March, so we have March Madness, and the NBA playoffs are just about to start up.
The WNBA
around the corner.
is starting soon.
The WNBA is also starting soon. And something like Joe and I have so many different memories, together, and one or a collective of memories that I always kind of come back to is when we lived together and we had League Pass, and we were watching NBA games, but in particular, this was the Golden State
Like the
era
heyday.
of dominance,
Yeah.
and the whole game of basketball was changing because of them. And we were tuning into games, you and I, to watch the Warriors play, see Steph play, see this style of play. And so I always kind of think about that. What are kind of your thoughts and takeaways from that era?
I remember those fondly. And I remember I was most excited to watch Steph, obviously, right? And we had never seen a player like that be so successful at making three-pointers, at his rate, and the amount he took, right? And it was me as a basketball player, like, I'm a shooter. Like, that's my specialty. Like, I'm a 3-and-D guy, right? So I feel like I naturally gravitate towards these three-point specialists, the Reggie Millers of the world, the Steph Currys of the world, Klay Thompson, Kyle Korver, even like Max Strus, right? Who's a DePaul guy, now plays for Cleveland. And it was just so fun because it was just like must-see TV. It was like grab your popcorn. And I remember like staying up late to watch the games because they're West Coast.
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes where I like tuned in, I was like falling asleep in bed with my computer next to me, like watching Steph and the Warriors and Klay just go off. And it was just so fun to watch. And it was because of those two guys, the Splash Brothers, right? I forgot who coined that term, but it was genius. And I just remember it being so fun. And they had fun doing it as well. And then Steve Kerr was at the helm, who's also like a three-point specialist. And it was a great moment for basketball, for the NBA, for culture. And it was so fun. And I think some of that magic still exists, but it's definitely fading away as they get older. But yeah, such good times watching that team. And we had no affinity to the Warriors.
No.
Like, I had no idea about Golden State except for maybe... Who's the dunk contest guy that played for them? Jason Richardson? Was that him?
Oh, yeah, Jay Rich. Yeah.
And did Chris Mullins play for them? No.
Chris Mullins, remember Baron Davis had a moment there?
Yeah. They had ugly uniforms back then.
Monta Ellis, yeah.
Yeah. And it was just so fun to watch that team. And they obviously went on to be a dynasty. But it was... Yeah. And Steph is still Steph. Like... I'll watch if Steph's playing, especially in a high stakes game, like a playoff game or an elimination game. I feel like that's when he'll show up. And shooters shoot. And I've just always been drawn to those style of players. People love just like, as you're a shooter too,
I'm very much.
You know what? Like, people just love to see the ball go through the hoop.
Yeah.
People love a success story, and these are like micro success stories. And the farther away from the hoop you go and it goes in, I feel like the joy goes up for everybody out there, especially the person shooting it. And not to get too far ahead in the conversation, but no one like that exists except for, the Steph and the NBA people, but also on the younger generations, it's Caitlin Clark for Iowa, the collegiate team. And she is like, grab your popcorn and tune in, watch it. And I'm just thinking about this for the first time and connecting these two dots. But watching her play this year has been the closest that I felt about watching a player since those like heyday Steph Curry days.
Wow. Interesting.
Have you been following Clark?
I haven't been following any college basketball.
Okay. The men's side, same. I could like care less.
I've tuned in to more Iowa games than I have any men's basketball.
I've turned into more Iowa games this year than men's college basketball and NBA games combined.
But that would be more due to... I used to work the day shifts at Lincoln Station at the bar.
Yeah.
And so college would be on, but I just... Now I'd say it's not in my natural periphery, whatever. I follow the NBA. Now, the Golden State run was right before Giannis kind of took a leap and the Bucks became really good.
Yeah.
So they're kind of... I feel like in the NBA, there's these stories where the young players are up and coming, but then you have the people in their prime, and it's kind of this kind of arc.
Different like levels.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Or pyramid.
And so it was cool to see the success of the Warriors with that. I tune into every Bucks game that I can. So I have League Pass. I think the difference
You're also
is,
a Bucks guy. Like you're like you're from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You're like a Bucks guy. Like if the Bulls were good,
that's what I'm saying.
Like I would
all
watch
that matters is if your favorite team is good or not, you would watch it.
Yeah. But I think what's more interesting is the teams that don't have any affiliation to, and we like watch them. Like hence the like Steph Curry Golden State Warriors run, or Caitlin Clark in Iowa basketball, or the last time I was invested in a college team was probably Zion when he was at Duke, because we'd never seen anything like that before. Yeah, and it was like, again, like get your popcorn, right? Like something crazy is going to happen. He's going to do a 360 windmill, or he's going to go off for like 35.
Yeah.
And every sport, especially more so these days, I feel like it rides and it dies with the individual players. And I think the only league that's been able to skirt by this is the NFL, right? It's a very like team-based game, but I still do believe that there too, there's going to be this like individual player trend of driving the success of the league is going to infect that league at some point in the near or long-term future. But the NBA is like a players' league, right? The MLB has no players, and the league is like suffering, right? Or they can't market their players. But then you look at the rise of college hoops, and you can point to these specific players. Caitlin Clark obviously having the biggest impact on. What's crazy is that it transcends NCAA and WNBA. Like WNBA tickets have skyrocketed for Indiana Fever, who's going to draft her. But then I was also looking at the New York Liberty, who play at Barclays, like 10, 15-minute walk from here. Tickets to see Caitlin Clark's team play are like $300-400, like on par with like
really?
Knicks tickets. Yes.
Whoa.
Which is insane. And it's 16, 17,000 like NBA arena. And it's all because of her. There's no other, it's black and white to attribute the success of those ticket prices and the rise of WNBA, of TV ratings, of collegiate games, all because of her. And it's because she's really good, obviously, but also I think it's because what I said earlier, she makes a ton of shots and they're from really far away. Like it's so fun and rewarding to see someone shoot a three-pointer from like the logo three. Like think about Dame Lillard, right? Yeah. Like it's just so satisfying. It's not as satisfying as seeing someone like Jokic kind of lull people to sleep. That's just like, in my opinion, not as exciting, right? Or, we love people who can like pass the ball in the league, right? But I'd say for the average fan, like it's not as exciting, right? I don't even know who exists, the Magic Johnsons of the world, or even like who's some other great passers of back in the day, like remember
Nash.
Nash, like remember like Jason Williams from the Kings, like way back in the day. But like I think if not to just to like sum it up, I think people just love to see people take shots from really far away from the basket. And if it goes in, that's great. And these players are really good at doing that. Steph Curry, Caitlin Clark, Trae Young, right? He was another player in college that I was like, I'm going to tune in and watch him at Oklahoma, right? And
do you remember when you and I used to tune in for LSU games for Ben Simmons?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that too. And we're like, man, this guy's going to crush it. Wow, we were so wrong. I mean, most people.
He was good for a while. Then it just,
he was.
I don't know. No one knows what happened.
There's some revisionist history there, and some like documentaries that come out in like 10, 15 years from now are going to be so interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be an amazing case study for like sports psychology, right?
Well, now.
But even him, like you watch him play, and it's like he has some good passes, but like we're not tuning in to watch Ben Simmons anymore. Right?
Right, because there are other players. But what would you say, because kind of tying it back to the Golden State kind of run in that era of the like 2015 to 2019-ish run, some would say that it's changed basketball where now it's only layups and threes, and it's a lot of chucking threes.
Yeah, kind of like the Moneyball effect on the NBA.
And there's less variety of types of shots, perhaps?
Yeah.
Like, has the NBA become pretty much all the same? Like, all the teams and all the, you have this type of player, you plug him in, and, he has this skills, he's this size, he's going to be this. Is that what it is now, or does it shift in a couple of years to something else,
I mean, like I told you before we pushed record, like I haven't been as tuned into the NBA this year, and I think maybe that is part of the reason is because the Bulls just aren't as relevant. They'll be like they'll be like playing tournament team, and DeMar's great in the fourth. I love his mid range. Like I'm gonna be a Bulls fan forever. Yeah, it does seem like there's just this swath of kind of blandness, and every game is the same. And I think I can be objective. I'm much more of a casual fan now than I was even a few years ago. And even the regular season too. Like I was really excited about the play-in tournament this year, and I forgot that happened, and I think it did make it a little bit more exciting in the top half of the schedule. But I don't know where the NBA goes from here. I think they've made it super easy to score the basketball. People obviously understand the analytics of, hey, it actually makes sense just to shoot threes or dunk the basketball, right? And I wonder if the rules will pivot back to making it a little bit easier for defenders to defend that style of basketball.
I think there was something recently where they let more fouls go.
Yeah. So the people can be like more hand checky and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe that would help because, it doesn't seem as exciting as it once did, but it's also it is still it's still fun to watch Steph and the Warriors, especially like when they get hot. But I don't know who like the next people will be. Like Wembanyama is.
Well, all the people that would emerge as the new faces are all international players, not Americans.
Right, which I think is great. I think but
it's a different dynamic for the league in a way, I feel.
Like I love Luka. But I don't get as excited about him as I did like 2-3 years ago. Like I was a huge Luka fan, and when I had League Pass, I would tune in and like watch a Mavericks game. And now they even have Kyrie, who is arguably the most exciting player to watch in the NBA. Like what's interesting when I do tune in to watch Wembanyama is like my brain can't comprehend that this is like a human playing basketball, and it just looks so foreign. That it just like doesn't look right. Like the proportions are so off versus everybody else that it's like when you're like a 6th grade basketball team and someone is like 2 feet taller. It's just like something doesn't add up here. So my brain can't like comprehend like what I'm watching here. I do think like he's going to be the future of the league and will be like a dominant like MVP caliber player. But again, just from like a casual fan's perspective, maybe it would just be like hard to like process like what's going on here. And
I feel like there's also the factor of us getting older and having other interests.
Oh, for sure.
We don't tune into basketball all the time.
For sure. But I think I definitely think that's part of it. But also like I still keep tabs on the core leagues, and I see kind of the trends, and I feel like I'm still relatively a good barometer for understanding like is this a good year for NBA following? Like are people talking about it? Is there a buzz? Being in New York, obviously when the Knicks are better, like it's so much more fun. Like, this is a Knicks town, right?
Yeah, and they have been good until, I think, somewhat recently.
Yeah, there was a few injuries, but like I'm excited to like follow that team into the playoffs and when it gets like really exciting. And I think there's a ton of great players, great characters, great culture there. I'm a Thibodeau fan, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, generally speaking, I don't know, the NBA just doesn't feel like it is as relevant as it was a few years ago. And men's college basketball as well, I feel like is just, again, this is just me being a casual fan and also a big fan of basketball, the sport. The biggest gains I've seen is in the women's side, both in the collegiate level by far, and then also WNBA, I feel like has a massive opportunity for growth. And I'm excited about that.
What do you think the reason is for men's college basketball to be kind of in a slump?
From what I gather, the pay-to-play option, which I think is great for the players, and I'm happy that that's become a thing, has also, I think, affected the portal, like the transfer protocol, so like players can just pop around.
Yeah.
And so it's tough to build a culture as a team when players are only there for 6 months, right? So it's almost like this European style where you're jumping from one team to the next, and it's hard to build culture and excitement and to like market players for a longer period of time unless they are a Zion Williamson or a Trae Young. And I feel like there just haven't been as many of those in the past, 3-4 years. Like, I don't know who went number one in the draft the past few years. I mean, Wembanyama, obviously, but he obviously came from France.
But then you have like G League. There are just other options for
Exactly. So like Scoot Henderson went to the G League, and he's not doing that well this year. So Duke just got this dude Cooper Flagg, who seems pretty exciting. So maybe I'll watch some of their games next year.
Yeah.
But I don't know who the marketable players are for the NCAA.
But it's so hard too, because the good players are just going to leave.
Yeah.
So then it's constantly this churning of.
Yeah, it's a new problem. I'm glad that they are figuring out a way to reward players, pay players, compensate players. And so now they have this new problem, right, of players keep popping around, and it just seems that the product is becoming just not as exciting as it once was. So I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know how to fix like the transfer thing, but again, just speaking from a casual fan, like there's also like no players that I'm super excited about, except for like Caitlin Clark and who's the freshman from USC who drops like 30 a game. I forgot her name. But like, who's doing that in the men's game? Like, nobody.
Yeah.
Where's the Steph Curry of Davidson? Where's Zion Williamson? Where's the Ben Simmons? Like, and again, this is sure. I know people would have a ton of answers who watch the college game closely, but I'm a casual fan, right? So
the fact that no one is breaking through the barrier to the casual fan, that means that there's not really that transcendent player.
Yeah, I would say so.
It seems like the transcendent players are all coming from Europe anyway.
Yeah, or they're just bypassing the NCAA, right? But I mean, same thing with like any industry. It's like, play your hits, play your stars, and I just don't see a lot of stars in college basketball. Even you think about like business and the markets, like the S&P 500 is dominated by like 7 companies, right? The stars, the heroes, the hits. You look at like movie stars, right? You look at music, right? There are hits, there are A-list players, and I just don't see a lot of like A-list players or talent in men's college basketball right now that can like keep people's attention,
While we're on college basketball, our alumni, our alma mater.
Alma mater. DePaul Blue Demons.
DePaul Blue Demons, DePaul University.
Talk about not being relevant.
Whoa. Now, when we were there, this was like the worst stretch.
I didn't think it could be worse than that.
I didn't think it could be worse. I didn't think it could be 3-25, 26. This year, I would, I'd follow the team, and so
Sure.
they're in my box scores, and I'm just like, over and over, just, what?
Yeah.
What?
I
What?
think did they lose to Chicago State this year?
They might have.
I think they almost did.
There's only 3 teams that they beat.
Yeah. Dude, they were so bad.
I will say this, though. I'm pretty
I'm going to look it up really quickly.
satisfied with their coaching
coach?
hire. I feel like this is the best coaching hire they've made in my entire time
Yep.
that I've been a fan or a follower.
I'd agree with that.
However, if he fails, then it's something larger,
Yeah.
which I sort of think it already is.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Okay, so wait. DePaul did beat Chicago State 70-58.
Okay.
So that was one of their. There was 33% of their wins. They beat Louisville. They beat Louisville, Chicago
Louisville had
State,
a down year, I think.
and
I don't know.
wow, we lost to Purdue, Fort Worth. Holy cow. That's so embarrassing. Yeah, I don't know much about him, but I mean, he had a ton of success at Ohio State. Sounds like he got a raw deal from them, like getting fired.
And then when I think when we were in school, he was at Xavier. I think he was the coach of Xavier Butler.
He did.
Yeah,
he did 3 years at Butler. Did really well. Then he went to Ohio State.
Okay.
And now he's back in the Big East at DePaul.
Okay.
But honestly, though, especially after this year, my expectations couldn't be lower. And I don't know. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be so tough to be a coach today. Both
yeah.
college football and basketball.
Oh yeah.
Basketball, you have less to manage, but
In terms of number of players.
yeah, because you have to recruit new players, but
Yep.
then you also have to recruit your players to
Yep.
not go to the transfer portal, and then there's. I don't know exactly how it works, but there's always more money. If you're good, there's always more money somewhere else.
Yeah, totally.
And it's
Totally. And you can't compete with that.
And there's sort of this generational aspect to it with Gen Z and just with technology and individualism expressed.
Well, how so? What do you mean?
So say that the culture seems to be less teamwork minded and more individual. I'm gonna get mine. Well, I have these skills, so I should be compensated for it. Or this is my value, I should be compensated for it.
Yeah.
But there's criticism or feedback that I hear from people in different industries working with Gen Z is just a general lack of awareness or understanding of an interconnectedness of other people working together to create, to fulfill a shared goal. When we were in our 20s and getting out of high school, college, the sexy thing was starting a new company, which usually meant that you were working with other people and you were building something to provide value for society, for consumers, the world. Whereas now I think the sexy thing is to be a social media influencer or building a personal brand.
Yeah, like a solo entrepreneur.
You're more solo. Yeah.
Totally.
And so if we're talking teams here and players, you're thinking about not necessarily the team, but the brand, the personal brand.
Yeah.
And how the team fits into your kind of outlook.
Which makes sense because the incentive to both those scenarios is financial, obviously, right? And so the quickest way to financial gain and financial win during our years coming out of undergrad. It was startup world, which typically was, let's get a co-founder, let's build a team, let's raise capital, let's solve this problem together, because that's how you make money. And now that you can make a shit ton of money by yourself, like, why would you do that, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not incentivized to find a co-founder to raise a bunch of capital. You're incentivized to build a brand yourself, to make as much money by yourself, because that's what the market's rewarding. So it makes sense to me if there's a way to rearrange the incentive structure specifically for like college basketball, where like, oh, maybe you'd get a bonus if your team won a national championship, right? As opposed to you get this deal because you're you. Like, that could be really interesting, right? So maybe the incentives would be better aligned to team building and sticking out, right? So like, I'll give you this money if you stay for 2 years, right? Your junior and senior year, or your freshman and sophomore year. But I don't know how they would set that up. But I agree that it's shifted from let's join a company, let's start a company, to I'm going to do this myself. And it makes sense because you keep all that money as opposed to splitting it with other people.
I think the bigger question for me is, we're talking about college sports. And we're
talking about college sports. We're talking about practice. Practice.
Well, we're talking about money in college sports, but I'm more curious about the bigger picture of colleges and education in America. It seems like the ideas are conflicting that we have, where if you're a university, your primary responsibility is to provide education for the student body. But at the same time, the actions of universities have gone towards more corporations and profit-driven. So it's not about the student as much as it is getting a TV deal and making sure that your school is tied within a network of other schools that have the best deals.
Yeah.
It seems to be, to me, kind of this corruption, or probably disruption is most likely. But to see kind of the wearing away of what would seem to be ethics in collegiate institutions is concerning to me.
I agree. And yeah, I think you said the role of universities is to educate kids. I think more importantly, it's to prepare them for the world, right? To prepare them for the challenges and the sufferings that they will endure, and how to be resilient humans, right?
I don't think that is, though. I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's just
to
get a piece of paper, and it's not even about education. Colleges aren't about education anymore. It's about access to a network. It's access to a community of people, and it's less about education in itself. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. I mean, there's always been a percentage of your experience and the value you're
a brand experience
it's
more of a brand experience today in college rather than educational experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been a large value you get out of going to an undergrad is the network. Like I think that should still be a value, right? But yeah, it does seem like that piece of the pie has gotten bigger over the years, which I don't think is healthy for preparing the next generation of citizens in this country. I don't have as many direct ties to higher education, but yeah, from what I read and from what I understand, it's just changed dramatically, even since when we were there, which is not that long ago, like 10 years ago. And there's not as much discourse. There's not as much challenging of ideas. And, I'm sure you've listened to and read about all the issues that it's facing. I don't call myself an expert, but I do see myself from the sidelines looking in, being concerned about what's happening and what will continue happening.
At the same time, the cost is going up for young Americans.
Yeah. Which is wild because the product is deteriorating if you think about it, right?
Because you can, especially today, you can go on the internet and teach yourself skills.
Totally.
And make money doing it. Like
Yeah.
there's no, you have to be this age to start making money. With the internet, you can pretty much start making money when you want.
Hence the kind of the rise of the solo entrepreneur and the influencer, the creator, which...
So the college degree is...
Yeah.
Where it used to be to get a good job and, you know, it's... I don't really know what it is now other than...
I mean, it still is valuable, right? Again, like that network, and I think universities still do provide skills and skill sets, but yeah, it's not as a black and white path as I think it once was. And yeah, the value is diminishing because everyone can achieve a 4-year degree, so there's less differentiation in the marketplace as well. Even like people who get masters and MBAs are just not as differentiated anymore, just because the market's so saturated. Yeah, it's a concerning problem. I don't know enough about it, but I definitely hear a lot about the issues, and especially on the, you know, like the DEI stuff and the lack of communication and conversations. It seems really challenging. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how we got here.
I think that's...
we were talking about college basketball, and now we're just talking about universities.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a natural progression.
Yeah. But it's just...
College basketball, college experience.
Yeah. But like collegiate athletics versus the education system is... Sure, it's the same... Somewhat the same arena, but it's very, very different ends of the spectrum.
The... Americans love sports.
I think the world loves sports.
But I feel like Americans monetize sports more than...
Well, yeah, like we're great at capitalism, right? We're great at monetizing, like, period, right? I mean, I think the Premier League is maybe the second best league to be able to do that. They have the benefit of producing content around the world's most popular sports. I think that's why they have the edge. But yeah, America, we're just like really fucking good at like packaging things and selling them and producing value, producing shareholder value. And sports, I think, is going to like continue booming, and it's not going to be owned by the just kind of the big four of like NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL. Like you see it in pickleball, you see it in like tennis, you see it in women's sports. Like I think the WNBA is going to explode. We talked about Caitlin Clark already. Like the amount of people that turned up to see her play. Like just imagine like the ticket sales that these teams benefited from, and the merchandise and the promotion deals and things like that. And distribution in terms of people watching this is so much easier because of technology and things like that. And it's the best type of reality TV, and people love reality TV. And this is the best version of it, in my opinion. So yeah, I feel like sports there's so much opportunity. The ceiling is so high. I'm really excited about it, just being a sports fan.
Yeah. Did I tell you? So I went to a Bucks game at Staples.
Nice.
Crypto.com
nice.
arena.
How was that? I was still called Staples.
I don't know.
I love
I hesitate when I say it.
No, I if you just said that crypto, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Staples for sure.
That was cool, dude. Laker game?
Yeah.
Laker game. The pregame is like a block party, man. It's and you have the Kobe statue there, and everybody's taking photos with it.
It was brand new, right?
Brand new.
Yeah, that's cool.
It felt sort of like Times Square a little bit. And that's
not appealing.
Not
Times Square.
Okay, when I say Times Square, I mean like big shiny LED boards.
Got it.
Yeah,
got it. Yeah.
And one of these boards had Caitlin Clark commercial Nike.
That's cool.
Ad along with a LeBron 40,000 ad kind of thing with Nike. It was a party. It was a fun time, and losing my train of thought of I was mentioning it because of the Caitlin Clark, but
we're just talking about the rise of sports globally.
So you're saying that live television, sports fulfills this insatiable need for consistent live television programming that people understand.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like reality TV, I would say, more generally speaking. And again, like sports, I think provides the best reality TV. It's also like very black and white and very, there's a method to the madness. You have a winner, you have a loser, you have a clock, you have a countdown. You obviously have individual stories from the players, things like that. And it just like writes itself, right? And then every so often you get a beautiful ending. You get a last second shot. You get an underdog winning, right? March Madness. I haven't watched like a lick of college basketball, but like I'll be following the games. And if I see like, oh, there's potential upset, I'll probably tune into the last 2 minutes, right? Like who doesn't love watching that stuff, right? And there's just such an appetite for it because we have these devices in our hands where we can tune in any second of the day. And there's billions of eyeballs who will tune in for that like real moment, that reality TV, if you will.
Something I'm thinking about is I think in the next 10 years, flag football will grow dramatically.
Yeah.
And it's potentially the NFL's way to overtake soccer in the world.
In 10 years?
Not in 10 years, but I'm saying that direction of breaking the game down a little bit more where it's simpler. People can do it without equipment. It's an Olympic sport now, so more people are going to be participating worldwide. That getting the world interested in flag football will then lead people being interested in the NFL.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's not as much like physical injury risk, obviously.
It's more skill-based. And you're seeing the Pro Bowl game.
Yeah, it's like
do more of this.
Like kind of like 3-point specialists for the NFL.
Yeah.
I haven't watched any flag football. Is it fun to watch?
I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But
because that's also key.
Know,
like
growing. I don't know.
Because it needs to be entertaining to watch. You know, that's the one thing I do worry about. Pickleball is I've watched a little bit of it, but it's so boring to watch on like TV. So there definitely has to be. It has to be entertaining, right? Like it has to be a good product. You know, it can't be a shitty product. Like sure, it could be fun to play, but like, are 20,000 people going to come and pay for this, or is there going to be millions of people that tune in to watch it? I don't know. And hopefully that is the case for flag football, so the sport can grow. But yeah, just by means of accessibility, it doesn't have to be 11 on 11. You don't need pads like that. Yeah. That sounds great. So I hope it does work out. I didn't realize it was an Olympic sport this year. That's cool.
Yeah.
7 on 7?
I don't know the specifics.
That's going to be cool. And football, I feel like people love football too. Like they're doing NFL games in Germany now and they sell out like that. And
they're doing the first one in Spain now.
Okay. Oh yeah. I think it might be the Bears actually. Okay. So there used to be.
We want people to like football, not.
Yeah, of course.
So why are we sending the Bears over there?
Oh, touche. It's a whole nother conversation. And there was NFL Europe, which was successful for
Was it successful?
10, 15 years. I think maybe not to the level that they wanted, but
it wasn't. Yeah.
There are professional leagues.
It wasn't a negative.
Yeah, I know there are professional leagues in Germany and some other countries. It's obviously nowhere near the size of professional leagues here, but it is a growing sport. And like the NFL continues to play more games in England, like you said, doing one in Spain. I think they talked about South America, not just
Mexico City. I think is one in there.
Yeah. But even like Brazil and other places. So.
Oh yeah, Brazil. Yeah.
I'm excited for that too. Yeah, like the valuations of these teams are only going to go up and up and up. And yeah,
the NFL does a great job with scarcity of its product too. Whereas when we're talking about the regular season of the NBA, every game matters with the NFL.
Yeah. I do wish the NBA would tighten it up a little bit. I think they made strides with the in-season tournament, but yeah. It just doesn't feel as exciting.
The big thing is like where are you going to make up the revenue?
Yeah.
For the ticket sales and
exactly. I don't know. That's a hard one to solve for, but it's just funny. Like I think because I love watching Miami, I love watching Jimmy Butler, but it's like I like watching playoff Miami Heat, like regular season Miami Heat. It just seems like
that's why more and more I'm not paying attention to the regular season of the NBA.
Yeah.
For my team, the Milwaukee Bucks, it's championship or bust.
Yeah.
So,
and you're gonna get like a 1, 2, or 3 seed. So.
Yeah, right now we're the 2 seed, but all these storylines, I don't listen.
Cares?
I don't listen to any other. I used to listen to all these different NBA podcasts and. They're talking trash about my Bucks all the time, but we're the 2 seed and we have Giannis and Dame and we're not playing for the regular season. So most of the stories about Oklahoma City Thunder, look at their these young cute kids, now they're all growing up, and the Timberwolves and but for us it's
they'll flounder in the playoffs because they just don't have that experience.
One would think. And so and then just the gushing about the Boston Celtics.
I mean, that's
maybe
just
it's because I listen to Bill Simmons.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
But it's like every podcast episode, he's talking about the Celtics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NBA, again, it's just because of the power of big numbers, right? Like the NBA does better when like the Knicks are good, the Lakers, the Bulls, the Celtics, the Sixers, because those are the big markets, right? So there's more relevancy just because there's more eyeballs watching and more of those people will care about the league. But like the mid-market and smaller markets, of course, like the NBA doesn't want that because like who cares about the Oklahoma City Thunder? No offense, but like the Bucks. Like I like the Bucks because you like the Bucks, right? We've been to a few games. I love Giannis. I love good basketball. So I'll cheer for the Bucks, right? But like, yeah. Also, like, I like Giannis for a lot of reasons. I don't know if I like watching him play basketball as much as like 70 other people. Like,
I think bigger guys are less fun to watch than guards.
Yeah. I agree. To my comments about like Wembanyama, I think maybe it'll be a little bit different when he starts to catch on. But yeah, there's just this. It's not as poetic, right?
Or challenging, or
like MJ was perfect, right? He was like 6'6", like 2 something. And when he dunked the basketball, he had to exude, effort to make it look like, oh, wow, like he jumped really high, right? And he could hang in the air, right? It was like majestic. It was poetic. Giannis just like bulldozed, right? Wembanyama like literally just like goes up and he dunks it, right? Jokic, I think, is a little bit more poetic and majestic, but he's also just like a weird looking dude, he's not attractive, which matters, right? Humans like looking at other like attractive humans, right? So that's just like a shot against him. And he just has no swag, right? So he's just like not a very marketable guy, but I love him because he is one of the best players of this generation. He gets no like love. He just wants to like play basketball, get paid, like win championships, and then go home. Like I love that and I respect that. But he's just like not my guy, right?
Yeah. Wait, let's talk about your teams. We're talking about markets, big markets.
All my teams are.
I wanna zero in on Chicago. Now I live in Chicago. We're here in New York.
Yeah.
And I cheer for when they're not playing Wisconsin sports teams, I cheer for Chicago.
Even the Bears?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
what are your thoughts on the Bears having the number 1 pick and their whole situation?
Yeah. So I do think they needed to get rid of Justin Fields. I think the sample size of him being there like three years, he's got a ton of starts under his belt, and there's still like, is he the guy? Is he not the guy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think if we're still wondering by this point, he's probably not the guy, right? Or he's probably not the guy for Chicago. So for his sake and for our sake, I think, and sending him to Pittsburgh, I think was great too. I think, wait, is Mike Tomlin not there anymore?
He is, yeah.
He is. And then he also has competition with Russell Wilson. So I think both those players will make each other better. Because, yeah, he just like, I just kept hearing like this coordinator, that coach, this thing, the other thing. And who has like a perfect setup to be successful? You know, like there's always going to be something. And I just wanted to see more. I wanted to feel more. I wanted to feel more of a chip. I wanted to see more wins, right? If he is as great as everyone says he was, then I feel like he could have better compensated for the challenges he was facing with coaching, with coordinators, with lack of weapons, blah, 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 blah. And it was 3 years. Like we tried, right? With Caleb Williams, I really don't know much about him. Everyone says he's like a generational talent. Our track record for picking high-profile quarterbacks has not gone well. We struck out on Trubisky. Justin Fields did not work out. The most success we've had at a quarterback position have been Jay Cutler, who we got through trade. With that said, they're probably going to pick him, and I hope it works out. My expectations are low. My confidence in having it work out is low, just because it also seems like the organization as a whole is not set up for success. And I love the McCaskey family. They are a critical part of the NFL. But from what I understand and from what I've read, the organization just doesn't carry itself like a championship organization. And until there's this like culture change from the top, it's really hard if it's a business, if it's a sports organization, if it's like your home, whatever. I've observed that it's really hard to make significant changes from the ground up, right? From like grassroots, right? Outside of like the civil rights movement, like I don't know many like grassroots movements that have been able to inflict change from like the ground up, especially in a professional sports organization where it is very hierarchical and there's levels to this pyramid. So are we going to draft him? Probably. Do I have high hopes? No. Do I have low expectations? Yes. Do I think we're going to fumble it again? Chances are probably, based on our culture and our setup.
See, this is why I feel for my Chicago brethren. Like, the infrastructure in my lifetime for quarterbacks in Chicago has been terrible.
So bad.
And I think Fields has talent.
Absolutely.
But, again, the infrastructure is bad. And then I was watching the game versus the Packers. And if the Packers won, they would make it to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to Jason, and I was like, they should get rid of Fields.
Yeah.
He doesn't make big plays
when
he needs to make big plays.
Yeah.
He just lacks that.
Yeah.
ability. Really.
Yeah, that
So
kind of
you
like
have to move on.
X factor.
Yeah.
He makes the big plays when the stakes are low, when they're
Yeah.
down by like 20 and he goes for like a 60-yard scramble.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, like one of the most athletic guys on the field, right? But if you can't make those types of plays in big time moments, you know, like Stacey King, Chicago Bulls, big time players make big time plays in big time moments, right?
Yeah.
And I think you can count the big time plays during big time moments on like one hand with him.
I think.
But I do think it's what's challenging for me is what percentage of it is him, what percentage of it is the organization, right? Because there's definitely a little bit of both. I think it skews more his way, but the culture in Chicago has been non-existent since Lovie Smith. I think we let go of Lovie Smith at least one, if not two seasons too soon, and he wasn't able to properly hand off the culture baton to the next person. The culture baton also meaning our identity as a football team, which was great defense, great run game, and mediocre quarterback play, right? And we haven't had that identity since. We have had no identity, and we've had no one able to come in and dictate an identity. And Justin Fields is the opposite of that, right? It's so far to the other end of the spectrum. He is a mobile quarterback who is, highly, he scrambles, he improvises quite a bit. He is like this high-performing athlete at the quarterback's position, which we haven't had ever, unless you count, like, I don't even know, like Cordell Stewart, we had him for a few years. And it just like, it never felt like a cultural fit.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest,
Bears run the ball and play defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we just like draft like a 3rd to 5th round QB who's like a game manager and like blue collar, chip on his shoulder, like wants to make a name for himself, right? And like double down, like let's just like pick an identity and like try to like go down that path. Like I don't see a vision. I don't see I don't see like what's the culture we're trying to build here. I don't see that.
But this is something bigger I see with Chicago sports teams. They're in a big market, so they're generating revenue and profit without having to win.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no
incentive to really
Yeah.
change up the culture, do
Yeah.
things differently.
Yeah.
You look at the Bulls.
Well,
Everybody supports the Bulls in the city.
Yeah.
They ride or die Bulls.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
the ownership just sucks.
there's no
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Reinsdorf owns the Bulls and the Sox. Those are both my teams. I'm not a Cubs guy. I'm a Sox guy. And, we had a great run with D Rose. He fell into our lap, right? So we, by no means of us like making effort, like we lucked out with that, right? And then obviously he got hurt, went down. Next thing's the next thing. And
outside of those Rose years, since Jordan,
Nothing.
they haven't had any
Nothing.
significance.
Nothing. We had a little bit with like Levine and DeMar, but now like Levine's hurt. And again, like what's the culture there? The White Sox are just awful. The organization at large, terrible in my opinion. Managerial choices. The La Russa thing when the team was like coming up with they had a great roll of players, and it was just so bad. But yeah, I think you identified it on the head of there's no incentive. Like it seems like these owners don't really care that much about like winning. They just want to like collect a paycheck, and it's easy for them because people will show up to watch a shitty team, especially the Bulls, right?
Yeah.
And even if they don't, like the deals are already inked, right? The TV deals, the advertising deals, the partnership deals. They're just going to keep printing cash, and their valuations are increasing as well, right? Like the Bulls and the Bears are some of the highest value teams, and they haven't been relevant since what? Since Rex Grossman went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Chicago sports though. Two things. There's some news about the Chicago stadiums. I'd love to get
Oh, yeah.
Your kind of thoughts on that? We have the White Sox potentially building a new stadium in the South Loop, and the Bears building a dome or a roofed stadium
somewhere
along the lake, potentially.
Oh, now it's the lake. Because it was Arlington Heights for a while.
Yeah, I think now the push is...
Which I liked.
In Arlington Heights or in downtown?
I don't know, actually. But regardless, I like the idea of the Bears having their own home. Because right now it's owned by the city, Soldier Field is. Okay. So I love the idea for them to have their own home, right? So they can like really, you know, have their own space, right? They've basically been like renting from the city of Chicago for whatever the 60s, 70s after.
And now everything in sports, it's not about the functionality of a stadium. It's about the fan experience.
Totally. Yeah. And they'd be able to build that. I do love Soldier Field, but you've been there. It's like really hard to get to. It's, the stadium is okay. It's pretty small for an NFL stadium. I think it's one of the smallest. And yeah, it's just like hard to get to. It's not very fan friendly. There's nothing else around there. So from like a fan experience, it's just like not that great. So I'm pro them getting the new stadium. The White Sox, the renderings look really cool. Mm-hmm. It would be a little sad because I love the South Side. Like I have family who grew up like near there, and I just going to Comiskey Park like ever since a kid. It'd be sad, but I think they could benefit from being a little bit closer to downtown, so there could be more of a neighborhood around there. I always thought that Bridgeport and the South Side would develop more, but it seems like what's happening is it's more like Northwest City is developing more. You know, like it was Wicker, then it was Logan, now it's like Avondale, as I understand, and like the Bridgeport IIT, like it just seems like the South Side has such a strong negative connotation that they just haven't been able to develop it as well as they have with like the Northwest neighborhoods outside of downtown. So the renderings look great. Like the skyline in the background looks great. I think new stadiums are nice and all, but I just would rather see a commitment to winning and a cultural shape. And you can do, it's almost like when a company rebrands, right? You can look and say things differently, but you just need to make sure you back it up with like walking the walk. So I hope that this isn't just putting lipstick on a pig for both the Bears or the White Sox. I really do hope they use this opportunity to start anew, start fresh, bring some new blood into both of the cultures, get some new leadership who want to win and who want to invest in winning and not just care about, you know, the bottom line. But we'll see.
Chicago sports fan.
What are the Chicago teams that are, the Cubs weren't that great last year, right? Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, they got that one guy.
Yeah. There's a lot of buzz around them.
Yeah. That's great.
The Cubs got the Brewers' old manager, Craig Counsell.
Okay.
They should be pretty good. They missed the playoffs last year. But
yeah.
My last question for you, though.
Yeah.
My favorite question. What are you curious about recently?
Oh, so many things. I am most curious to continue learning about the effects of these devices and how the impact. I want to better understand the impact that these devices have on everybody. Not just like, because there's a lot of studies and research done on younger generations because they start with the iPhone. I say iPhone, I just mean like generally speaking, like devices and phones, and how much it's affecting us. And I do think it's a net positive, phones and devices and the internet, but I don't know how much of a negative it is for us humans. And I just want to better understand that. And I'm really curious to see what happens in the near and long term, specifically with social media use, and like if there will be legislation for making it illegal for people under a certain age. I'm thinking like 15, 16, right? The Instagram, TikToks, YouTubes of the world if it becomes illegal. Everything that I'm reading makes me want to hope it will be illegal for...
Just regulated.
Yeah. But it's so interesting. And I feel like we talk about it a lot, but we still don't talk about it enough. The impact that the iPhone has had on our society and continues to have and will have in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we appreciate how much it has been rewiring our brains and continues to rewire our brains. And I think we just need to have even more conversations and have more understandings, have a deeper understanding for what it's doing to our brain. And again, a lot very good, but some I think can be really, really just bad for our brains. So, and I think there's more. It seems like more people are talking about it, which is great, but that's what I'm curious to continue learning and see what will happen in the near term and long term.
Nice.
Devices.
That's really interesting. It's a great thing to be curious about. Well, thanks for having me in your living room.
Always. This is the second or third time we switched it up.
Yeah, we did.
I kind of like this. It's nice. As I said, I feel like I'm your guest on your talk show.
My big thing right now is like reading chairs. I like chairs with armrests and a little sturdiness, whereas the couch...
So you like this one?
I love it.
Yeah. Kylie sits there every morning and does her reading and writing.
Well, right here you get the natural sunlight, so it hits the pages.
Yeah,
that's pretty nice. But I'm gonna invest in like a reading chair.
That's a good investment.
Yeah,
I support that.
So,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back on.